right when my dog decides to growl. Hello, everybody. What's going on? We are live. It is the first day of rehearsals for Eurovision 2021, a day that many, many people have been waiting for. We have never had to wait 2 years for another Eurovision to happen, but it's here. We've seen the first 7 acts, all of which are coming from semifinal 1, and they performed in the running order. Jess and I have had some access in the virtual press room, so we've seen the full run-throughs. Gal and Polly have been seeing what's been coming out on YouTube, and we'd love to know what you guys think so far based on what you've seen, whether it's some of the exclusive footage that you've seen or some of the clips on YouTube. First, let's say hello to everybody here. Hello, Jess. Hello, Gal. Hello, Polly. How is everyone?
Hello, Stuart.
Very good, thank you.
Good, thank you.
Good. And now let's say hello to some people in the chat. Sarah O'Halloran, of course, we expect to see you here. Really going to be curious to know what your thoughts are on Ireland. I know that we don't have anything out publicly about that, but we will fill you in as best as we can. Hello to Morton V. Nice to see you again. We've got Queen Clara on the grounds. Clara and Andy are in Rotterdam, and they're making individual videos on all of the entries that we see. So be sure to check those out. Of course, we'd love for you to stick around with us here because we're also going to be talking about the rehearsals that we've seen today. Ben's Cuddly Toy is saying, hey, sorry I missed the stream yesterday. It was your 21st birthday. Oh, happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
What did you do for your birthday? Did you get any good gifts? And he's saying, you Eurovoxx guys actually sang happy birthday to me back in 2019 during your stream. Oh, okay. Well, Shall we do it again? I know it's not the greatest thing to do when you're in 4 different places in the world, but let's give it a try, okay? Everybody ready? 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday
to you.
Happy birthday
to you.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Ben's Cuddly Toy.
Happy
birthday to you.
Well,
anyway,
it's like a choral piece of like everybody's entering the.
Oh yeah, we should have done it in a round. That would have been a lot more practical.
It's like pitch perfect.
That's like a counterpoint. It's like I think it was beautiful. I hope Ben, we didn't ruin your 2019 memory. But,
if anything, I think we topped it. I think messy as it was the best we can do. Nice to see you, Rye Bailey, and ESC Can asking, do you think Norway can surprise tomorrow? Well, okay, we'll talk about this quickly. I think Norway is actually in a pretty good position to qualify and potentially do well in the final. I won't elaborate on it too much because obviously we should wait until we see the rehearsals and see what changes. Let's go to you first, Gal. How do you feel about Norway real quick?
No, I feel good. I mean, I don't know if it's going to be a surprise if they do well. I think they're in a pretty good place right now in the bets, and like I think the song has broad
appeal.
It can attract a lot of viewers. I think from maybe different sections and age groups because it has the sort of electronic trap beat kind of, but also a great sense of melody. I think it's like Post Malone or people like that who like know like they swim in the world of hip hop and R&B and whatever, but also have a great ear for melody.
Yeah.
And these guys are all over radio and playlists. So yeah, I think it could do well. Maybe except people who would think that it's like corny, that the song is Fallen Angel and he has wings. If he does have, I think he will do that.
Yeah, I would expect it as well. A lot of really great points that you made, and the thing that jumped out to me as well is the musicality of it. I'd love to get to Jess and Polly's opinion about Norway, but we are getting a little bit ahead of ourselves because we want to talk about the rehearsals that we saw today. Before we do that, let's just say that Rye Bailey's saying that his favorite was Russia based on what he saw on YouTube. So let's start with that first. Jess, you saw pretty much everything today. What was your favorite out of all the rehearsals you saw?
I would have to say my favorite was Lithuania, just purely for the fun and enjoyment factor and the fact that they just brought the color to the stage. They were their usual kind of crazy selves with their crazy dance moves, and it just kind of brightened up the stage and just And obviously, you know, with it being the first act on stage, just kind of was like the perfect opening to like Eurovision 2021 after 2 years. It was the great way to just get it off with a good bang, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. And I think that's exactly what they were intending to do by starting the show with Lithuania. Polly, based on, I know obviously you haven't seen quite as much as us, but based on what you've seen on YouTube, what was your favorite rehearsal from today?
My favorite from what I saw on YouTube was definitely Slovenia. I knew she was going to be fantastic, but I wasn't expecting that. And we didn't get to see that big moment after the key change in the clip that we saw on YouTube, but we definitely heard the choir and the gospel in the background, and it's just such a goosebump moment. I think she's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, it's been really interesting to see the impressions that people have had about that, because there seems to be a lot more confidence in Slovenia, even though, you know, we talk about certain things like the fact that she's in that second spot, which is known as the death spot. However, I've heard that statistically speaking, it's not actually the most difficult spot to get out of when it comes to qualification. Apparently, it's spot number 4, which we can get into that a little bit later because Sweden's in that spot. And I think that people would think a little bit differently about that this year. But first, Gal, based on what you've seen, what was your favorite rehearsal from today?
I think Montaigne, I think, had the most interesting rehearsal for me. Like I think like it has the most potential to surprise me when we actually see the live on tape version. I thought it just had some cool elements. I thought she had like great presence on stage, and the movement, the outfit kind of gave me Grease 2002 vibes. But you know, it's like a cool like retro futuristic thing. So yeah, I'm looking forward to see it. I didn't really get to the part where she has the like complicated vocal runs, so I don't know like how solid she is on that, but I'm pretty sure she did that already. I mean, she finished the rehearsal actually.
Well, so the thing is, specific to Australia, because they are currently the only competing act that has to use the backup footage. We've seen exactly what you guys have seen on that, so we didn't get to see the full run through as we did with the other ones. So I mean, yeah, like as I understand, when they did the backup recordings, they had an hour to do 3 run throughs, and then they chose which one of the 3 was the one that they wanted to compete with. So I mean, yeah, they would have had to do it in completion, and you know, definitely one that I'm quite curious about because of the fact that we haven't seen as much as we have with the other songs. But we'll get to that a little bit later. Now let's, you know, talk about our opening act, Lithuania. And Jess, you touched upon this because you said that this was your favorite. As I understand, this is quite similar to what we've seen in the national selection.
Yeah.
Was there anything that jumped out at you as different or elevating it?
I mean, I think the only thing that kind of comes to mind would be the camera work, in that it does seem different to the national final. There's a lot more kind of up-close shots with the lead singer, whose name I can't remember. And they kind of almost at one point, it looks like the lead singer's kind of taking the camera and kind of almost in selfie mode, like moving around, kind of similar to Spain 2019, which I thought was quite clever. And then what they've done with the camera work, kind of as you're watching it on a TV screen, I think is quite very eye-catching and very visually kind of stunning. But other than that, kind of the choreo, the outfits is all pretty much almost the same.
And I guess it's going to be hard for Polly and Gal to really comment on that because you don't really get to see the camera work. So specific to this, I mean, I guess to like for you, Polly, you would say that this looks more or less the same as it did to the performance at the Lithuanian national final, right? Oh no! You lost Polly.
We'll take that as a yes.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, I'll put that question to you, Gal, then. Was there anything new that you picked up on from that YouTube clip in Lithuania's performance?
It looked pretty much the same. I mean, first of all, I gotta say, I wish I could rock a yellow suit the way these guys do. I mean, that's a dream. But it looked pretty much the same. I think like the whole like the choreography, the color palette, everything was like yeah.
We share a small space.
Okay, yeah, no problem. Yeah, so I think it was pretty much the same, and I thought it was pretty good. Before I saw the rehearsal footage, hey, before I saw the rehearsal, I thought this might actually be like a shock non-qualifier because I wasn't sure how many people could relate to it. Like it might come off as a little goofy, perhaps, with all the moves, but I think it could do well. The one thing I didn't notice from the like 40 seconds available is like the choreo wasn't totally in sync. I think like the lead singer and the two backing dancers, like some of the movement, the word like totally in sync with this shot with one another. So this like they're gonna have to like nail this completely because that could be like the difference between like a really cool big pop spectacle to like another sort of jokey Lithuanian entry.
Yeah, you don't want to give it that kind of Spain 2008 vibe, where because obviously that was intentional, where they had the one dancer who was like kind of out of sync and missing everything. But you know, I take your point about the quirkiness of it. Oh, and there goes Polly. Okay, I think we'll get Polly in next time because she's having some issues.
We'll have a private session maybe.
But I take your point about the goofiness of it because it might turn off some people. And last year when I showed Lithuania's song to some of my friends and family, they also had that impression. Some people really loved it and other people just felt like it was a little bit too goofy. And so when people say that they see it as a shock non-qualifier, I understand where they're coming from. I guess what it comes down to is the fact that it's a super competitive semifinal, but also it has fewer entries than what we're used to because it's 16 and therefore like more will make it through than how we usually have it when it's 17, 18, 19. So it still seems pretty likely that it would qualify, but maybe, you know, as you say, Gal, like if you know, they aren't able to refine the choreography, maybe that might be something that turns people off. But nonetheless, let's see what you guys. It seems like a lot of people really enjoyed the Roop's rehearsal. Sarah Halloran said that she liked the dancing. Morton V saying the background colors for Lithuania suit the song really well. And Rima is saying hello from Lithuania. Oh, okay. So let us know what you think about your. I mean, you're saying that it's the best, but what did you think about the rehearsal? Are you confident that it's going to make it to the final? And of course, we have to say hello to our main man on the ground. Hello, Andy. Hope you're enjoying your time in Rotterdam. Morton V pointing out the fact that the last time we had 16 semifinalists in Semi 1 was Vienna 2015. So I mean, yeah, it's been a few years, and it is an important factor to consider because, you know, I think the thing about this semifinal is that it's not as if all the favorites are in it, but the bar, like the average quality is, I would say, higher in this one than when it comes to semifinal 2, where you kind of have songs on either end, where it's like these are quite confidently going to be in the final, and then these ones are probably less secure. I don't know. What do you make of that, Gal?
Maybe. I mean, I'm never like totally sure of like when people say that like one semifinal is the death semifinal. I'm never like too sure about it because usually my personal taste is different than the like the overall tendencies of the fandom.
Yeah,
but
totally.
but I think like in semifinal 1 there are maybe more entries that have like this like competitive energy to them. Like the more entries where you feel like they came for the win. Mm-hmm. Whereas like in semifinal 2, maybe you have more entries that feel like they came to do their own thing. They came to represent their own background or their own musical influences. And whether or not they're going to qualify. And I think maybe semifinal 1 has more like serious competitors that like want the title.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense totally. And I get what you're saying about having more of a competitive not an edge, but like it feels like the songs in semifinal one, for the most part, are really, you know, they have that hunger to get into the final, I would say. So let's get Polly back in here. Let's see if she's able to stay with us. You come right in time because we're just about to start talking about Slovenia. I just want to say to Vane, I'm sorry if I'm not saying your name correctly, but we will get to North Macedonia. We're just going in order first. And I'm going to go to you, Jess, because you're the only one out of us that's seen this song in full in the rehearsal. So what are your impressions about Slovenia?
I would say I think the thing that impressed me the most. What?
Hi, Polly.
Polly. The thing that impressed me the most, I would say, would just be her vocals, because they are literally insanely incredible. I mean, that for me was the standout. Kind of staging wise, there's not really that much going on. It's quite simple and kind of stripped back, which to a certain extent does suit the song. But at the same time, it would be nice to see something more happening on stage, or maybe having some kind of pyros or fire or something. But I think overall, given the style of the song and how she looks and how it comes across, I think it's good, but not great.
I know, Polly, you're a big fan of this song. So what are your thoughts about including pyro? Would that be a decision that you make?
I don't know, because I think it might take away from the song a little bit if they did keep that in from her like music video performance. But I do think they need to sort of put something in that oomph, that high note and that chorus after the key change. I think they do really need to elevate that part.
One thing that we do see in this song, which, I mean, I didn't see it in full, but at the end of that clip, you see the transparent LCD screen or LED screen descend, and you can see that they're starting to make use of it. And I'm curious, Jess, how did you feel? Did you feel like that was effective?
I feel like it has all the potential to be effective. I'm just not 100% sure that they used it to its full potential. So I'm wondering whether maybe we're going to see more of that as the rehearsals go on, and maybe they were just kind of trialing it out, or whether that's the final thing. But I was a bit disappointed with that part of the performance.
Fair enough. Gal, based on what you've seen, how do you feel about Slovenia's entry?
I think I share Jess's view that like it's a little empty. Like I mean, the song is very big, and you know, her vocals are perfect, and I'm sure she's gonna nail them. I don't think there's gonna be any problem on that part. But you know, ballads, like no matter how soaring, no matter how strong the vocals, they don't always do that well. If it's just the singer on stage, it might do great. I mean, look at 2014. But generally, it's like I'm not sure. I'm a little nervous for her. If they don't do anything interesting, maybe they rely on some camera work to make it a little more dynamic, or I don't know. I thought that they're gonna have some backing singers there, because the clip on YouTube, it's like it shows the part with the backing vocalist enter, like hallelujah, and she's like, sing it, you know, to the audience. But like, I would, you know, assume that they want to have more people there to make it feel bigger and make it look bigger than it is. So right now it's maybe a little too minimalist, but you know, her voice totally fills the space. So maybe that's enough to get over that hurdle.
Yeah, maybe. And, you know, it is hard to say without seeing like the mix of camera shots and, you know, exactly how she's being positioned and framed. I mean, obviously, like this is definitely a performer with one of the best voices in the contest. Like, to me, that was clear from last year. I don't personally connect with this song that much. And I know it's different for you, Polly. I think that this could potentially benefit from coming after Lithuania, because if Lithuania is off-putting, if like the quirkiness of it doesn't reach everyone, then maybe something like this will be more their speed, where it's anthemic. You know, it is a moment for a performer to really show off their voice. And I guess that's the problem that I have with it, that it becomes more about that than like the song itself. But you know, maybe it will be different for other people. And I also take what you say as well, Gal, about the lack of live backing singers. Or I mean, to me, it looked like that it was pre-recorded in the clip, but it might be that they're just off stage. I do think that would be quite an effective addition. I mean, obviously, at this point, if they haven't made that decision and they don't have people to be those backing singers, then it's a little bit too late for that. But yeah, I'm going to be curious to see what this looks like next week when we get to see the full thing. But yeah, let's move on to number 3. Number 3 was Russia, wasn't it, Jess?
Yes, it was, I believe.
All right. So tell me about this performance.
So for the most part of the performance, it's very similar to what we saw in the national final. She has this kind of bright red boiler suit. She has kind of 4 dancers with her, kind of standing like in a circle or like in the corners of the stage. But the only difference this time around is that we have at the very beginning this very kind of big, and when I say big, I mean big, like dress that she's wearing with loads of different kind of fabrics and colors. And she kind of turns herself into a Russian doll almost before kind of breaking out and unleashing this kind of female power. And to me, it was just exactly what I expected from Russian Woman and from Mazina. It was just, yeah, I can't really complain. It was very strong, kind of vocally and visually, and I think this is a sure qualifier.
It's really interesting, the effect that it has, because obviously it starts with her in that big dress, and it's like it's so big that it's meant to be kind of comical and funny. And like, to me, I think that's like the perfect way to get people to notice you right away. I understand that this song is not necessarily everyone's cup of tea, but I think that a lot of people are at least getting behind the message of it. Polly, how do you feel about Russian Woman?
I absolutely adore the message that she's bringing across about equality and female empowerment. And I am actually getting some like Netta vibes from her performance and the song as well. So I'm hoping she'll have that kind of influence on the audience and have that kind of effect.
Gal, as somebody from Israel, I'm curious how you feel about those Netta vibes.
Yes. As somebody from Netta's hometown. Yeah. I feel like really breathing stardust. Yeah. So I think, well, I didn't really think of like it like having Netta vibes, but maybe like because it's, you know, quirky, but also having a deep message behind all the weirdness. I thought it was a pretty cool performance. Like the dress is really, like you said, Jess, it's like a Russian doll. Like you feel like you open like Estonia 2018, Moldova 2013, Malaysia. Like, you know, somebody should make it. I gotta talk to the Eurovision shop.
Yeah, definitely. Be some good merch.
Yeah. And I'll take some percentage. So I thought it was like a really cool thing that also that she doesn't like take off the dress or the dancers, you know, rip it off, or like we usually see in clothes change. It's like there's a door opening. I thought it was like really cool and really like a memorable visual. In the clip, she kind of struggled with, you know, she taking one arm with the microphone inside it, like so they're gonna have to figure it out, because if she doesn't make it work, it just looks, you know, sloppy, and I don't think you want that. As much as the song is like kind of has this like a sort of laid back vibe in some of her delivery, I think they want to make it tight. But other than that, yeah, I think it could do well. It's a pretty polarizing entry, I think. So some people really like it, some people really don't like it, and both of those people are me at the moment. Like, I really don't know how to feel about the song. It's like it's cool and she's cool, but sometimes like some of the elements don't really work, and like the rapping is a little Rambo Amadeus for me. But I think, but I think, you know, with the message and the visual in the background, they show Russian women, and some images. I guess it's like some like folklore Russian stuff. They have some animation that reminded me of like Soviet animation from the 60s, like really like sad foxes. So yeah, I think it could, like, visually, it could really stick in people's minds, regardless of how they feel about the song. So I think it could, like, tilt the balance in her favor. I think I said right. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, I see what you mean, and I don't know, like, when talking about how she kind of struggles to get out of the dress, because it starts off being kind of funny, where she's like literally drowning in this dress. It kind of works for me, so I don't personally have too much of a problem with that. But like, yeah,
so maybe she needs to like overplay it, maybe.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
Because in the clip, it seemed like she's like actually struggling. So maybe if she's like really, you know, making a scene out of it.
But then again, that could potentially kind of play into the message of the song, where she's kind of struggling, she's kind of trapped somewhere, and suddenly she opens the door to her dress, comes out, and is like, bam, I'm here. Like, maybe that was the message behind it, possibly, unintentionally, even.
Whoa.
Well, I mean, you know, you could certainly interpret it that way. She has said that the dress itself is made up of parts of like traditional fabrics and textiles from the different regions of Russia. So, you know, it was a very intentional, there's some intentional symbolism going on there. And yeah, you know, whether or not that effect is intentional or not, it might just work. You know, sometimes sometimes you just benefit from having accidental genius or something. I don't know how it is for you guys, but on my end, things are really laggy. So I'll do my best to get through the rest of these songs. Let's move on to Sweden and Tusse. I did see this in full. Most of what we saw it's reminiscent of the performance at Melfest, as we expect from Sweden. And I would say that, you know, there are certain elements that are added. For example, we do see projections of the dancers on screen to make it look like a bigger crowd. Like when Tusse is at the front and leading everybody as they march forward, they've filled it out a little bit. I don't know how I feel about that, because to me, it still comes off as like CGI stuff. Like you're not fooling anyone, you know? So I don't know how I feel about that, but in terms of like the camera work and the lighting, I would say it was a well-rounded performance. Oh, now I'm like really frozen. Are you guys still there?
We can still hear you and see you.
We see you, but
okay.
It's like stop motion kind of.
Okay.
But yeah.
I'm gonna try and resolve this. Jess, you take over. tell everyone your thoughts on Tusse, and I will be right back. Okay.
Okay. So for me, Tusse's performance is just, I want to say, like typically Swedish. Like it's very smooth and very sleek. It's kind of very polished. And it's very similar to what we saw in Melody Festivalen with Tusse in this kind of red suit. Although now he has kind of sparkly gloves, which I'm not sure how I feel about them, but anyway, he seems to like them, so good for him. But yeah, we've had obviously the 4 dancers with him, which personally I think is enough. I don't think we need to have all of these like pretend people on the screen. I just think it looks a bit too crowded. But Gal and Polly, like from what you saw, what did you guys think?
I didn't see many differences from Melfest, to be honest. I thought that they basically, apart from those sparkly gloves that came out of nowhere, I think that literally they haven't changed anything from Melfest. And I think to sort of draw more attention, they could have changed it a little bit more and given it a little bit more sort of oomph, especially in the chorus, because I think at the moment it is very monotone and it could easily sort of slip between the cracks of people like Anna. She's really going to stand out, and the root.
Yeah, well, I have to say, I think you missed something. It's not like totally in Melfest, but with glittery gloves. He's also sleeveless, so don't forget that. Yeah, so you know it's a big chase to super frozen. I think it's a little underwhelming. I think the stage presence, like I didn't really vibe with it in the Melfest performance, and here also like I think they need to bring something to make it a little like stand out. Maybe even like stronger lighting in the chorus, but like something to make it pop up a little more, because like the song itself is not like super flashy or like the most memorable or catchy of all the song surrounded it. So I think that they need to have another visual trick, which they can do. I mean, Sweden, have done all those like impressive work with video art and choreography and treadmills, and they can pull something off. Maybe they have something planned that like they haven't finalized, but yeah, I think like if they don't have some added visual elements, or if like Tuse managed to stand out in some other way, maybe more sparkles, it's gonna be hard for Sweden, maybe not to qualify, but to preserve their streak of top 10 finishes.
Yeah, I can kind of see where you're coming from to a certain extent. Stu, are you back with us? Hello, Earth to Stu.
Write us your thoughts.
We can't hear you, Stuart.
No.
Well, I think it's an affirmative then. We all like Sweden, but maybe don't necessarily love it.
Yes.
The next country I do believe was Australia.
Yes.
Yeah.
So maybe we can just go ahead with Australia and let Stu work out his Wi-Fi.
Yeah. We could.
Cool.
So Jess, what did you think of Australia?
Well, so for Australia, in the online press centre, we got to see exactly what you guys saw in the YouTube video, because that's all they gave us. So we kind of have very little to go off of. But from the kind of 20 seconds or so that I did see, I kind of got quite hopeful that they could have a good performance. I was surprised to see Montaigne wearing black, because I was thinking it seems a bit of a dark colour for Technicolor. But then again, I guess having just kind of a plain black kind of outfit allows to have colourful hair, colourful backing, lighting and visuals and stuff. So I think I feel hopeful that this will be a good performance, actually, and that I think she could qualify. But Gal, are you an Australia fan?
Yeah, well, I mentioned my thoughts earlier. I like it was my favorite rehearsal of the day. I'll just repeat what I said. That I think it has great potential to surprise me and everyone. I think it could do really well. It'd be very interesting. Her presence is really cool. If she nailed the vocals, which is like the biggest challenge with this entry, then yeah, it could do very, very well and could give another strong finish for Australia.
So Polly, are you agreeing with me or Gal?
I'm kind of in the middle. I'm on the fence about Australia. Like, I did not like the song at all when it first came out, but it has actually grown on me quite a lot now. And I do agree with what Gal said earlier, that it has that 2002 kind of vibe, like very kind of like early 2000s synth pop kind of stuff. And I'm actually like really liking it now. And I think despite not actually being in Rotterdam herself, I think she will still qualify and get a good result in the final.
Me too, actually. So yeah, that's what we think of Australia. Next up on stage was Vasil from North Macedonia. Or did you want to say anything more, Gal?
No, I just wanted to say North Macedonia. and I said it. So
Okay.
I'm good.
So yeah, we had North Macedonia. Gal, do you want to start us off from what you saw
North
on
Macedonia.
YouTube?
Yeah, so it's the same problem for me that I had with Slovenia. It's like a really nice song, excellent vocals. Is definitely up there with Anna as one of the best vocalists this year. But if the staging is not as impressive, it might have a bit of a problem. Hey, Stu.
Hi.
Oh, well,
You
smooth.
look much better.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. Please continue your thoughts.
Yeah, North Macedonia. Yeah, so it like the background. I wasn't sure. Like this kind of like fake lights in the background that I think many Eurovision ballads use, and usually don't go that far with them. So I'm a little worried because I really like Vasil. Like I think he's a sweetheart, and in the interview you did with him, Stu, he was like really open and candid and really like embracing the contest and the fans and everything. So I really want him to do well. He might maybe people would really like his message and the emotion he sells and his like mirror ball shirt. But yeah, I think it's like far from a short qualifier at this moment.
Yeah, and it's so hard. It kind of pains me because in this case, like I agree with you entirely in terms of the kind of performer that Vasil is. And in this case, it's like I'm cheering more for him than I am for the song. And it isn't to say that I don't like the song, but just in this mix of songs in this semifinal, it has a really hard time both blending in and standing out. Like I think it stands out for the wrong reasons, and it feels out of place when considering all things. The thing that I will say is that like he's definitely one of the best performers. In the rehearsals, he was holding back, you could tell. But I have no doubts that by the time that we see this, he will give possibly the best vocal performance of the night. And I think that another really commendable thing about this is the fact that he is so vulnerable on stage. He puts himself out there entirely, and it's rare that we see something like that from anyone. And I have to say, particularly from men, it's rare to see men go to Eurovision and be so vulnerable on a stage like this. Now I am kind of joining midway, so I don't know if we got to you, Polly, about your thoughts on North Macedonia.
I obviously like everyone loves Vasil as a person. He's, like Gal said, such a sweetheart, and I do actually really like this song because you can tell he's pouring his heart and soul into this. And you can, like, I agree with you, Stu. Like from the clip that I saw, he was holding back, but I think if he works on that in these rehearsals, that's what they're here for. He will deliver the best vocal performance of the night because he's got it, and we know he has it. He just needs to sort of project it more and believe in himself, I think.
But I wouldn't say that that's for me. That's not like the make or break thing when it comes to qualification. To me, it's many things. It's he's telling a personal story, but I kind of disconnect from it when you have the backing vocals come in. Like I feel like a less is more approach would have made this feel a little bit more impactful. In regards to the staging, there's interesting things going on, as Gal alluded to, the mirror ball shirt. I know that a lot of people have made comparisons to Daughter from 2020 and Melfest. Yeah, surprise, right? And we get some projections on him as well. Like, you get this light in the center of his chest that kind of spreads out. And like there's separate elements that work in some ways, but together, like they're just, it doesn't seem to be coming together. There isn't really this kind of cohesion that it needs. So I am a bit concerned about it, but I still, just because, Eurovision is unpredictable, I'm not necessarily counting it out, but I do still believe like he probably has the most difficult chances. The like things are kind of going against him. And I don't know. What do you make of that, Jess?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would agree with you. Not kind of in a negative way against him or the song, but just that there's so much strong competition he's up against in the semi-final. I think with the song that he has, it's going to be hard to stand out against that competition. But I mean, from what I saw today, I thought he did give, a good kind of performance of the song on stage. It kind of almost was a bit theatrical in places, I thought. But vocal-wise, he was very good, and he kind of, his stage presence was very good as well. I just worry about kind of people making comparisons about the staging, but also, the song not being strong enough. So I'm kind of a bit on the fence with North Macedonia this year.
And just with respect to the vocals that we saw today, he's preserving himself. That's what I mean by the fact that he was holding, because like he knows that when you're expected to sing, you don't want to be overdoing it. And obviously, there's still like less than 2 weeks until he has to give like the all out performance, but it adds up when you're going through the rehearsal that many times, and that's why like when you get those really technical singers at Eurovision, that tends to be the case. They tend to, not do as many interviews. They tend to, and if they do, they give like very short answers. Yeah, let's move on to our last rehearsal that we saw today. Ireland, lots of buzz, lots of people talking about the possibilities of this, and I think there are a lot of people who want to see Ireland back in the final. Gal, what did you think about the YouTube clip that you saw? Or actually, you didn't see one yet.
I didn't have it. No, I can do it now.
Sit on that for a little bit. Jess, you saw the rehearsal. What did you think?
I did. I kind of don't really know what to make of it. I mean, with regards to the staging, there's a lot going on, and it's kind of very busy, very chock-a-block on stage. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but I feel like with what we saw today, it was kind of a bit choppy, and it didn't maybe really run as smoothly as it maybe could have done, and going from kind of one part to the other.
I just want you to describe it, because most people haven't seen what we've seen, because even when the YouTube clip, which might be published now, it's off. It's not the camera mix. You see something off to the side. So can you describe what the staging was for people who didn't see it?
So when I obviously mentioned about it being very choppy, there's lots of elements to the staging. You kind of got the camera focusing on her, first of all, and there's lots of kind of props around her, almost kind of like trees and leaves and stuff. And then the camera kind of pans out, and she's kind of moving across the stage, sort of across all of these different props to kind of tell a story. And it's almost, I guess, in a way, kind of like the music video, like she's kind of running and she's on a journey, and she's going through the fields and through the forest, and all these kind of pop-ups and this augmented reality kind of joins her along this journey as well. And I feel like it was a bit kind of all over the place today, but then again, it is only a first rehearsal. And I feel like once all of this is kind of runs more smoothly, it will look a lot better. But visually, it's very kind of stunning and eye-catching. And you're kind of excited to see what's going to happen next and where's she going to go to next, which prop is coming next. So I admire them for doing something so out of the box. And I just hope it kind of comes together nicely for the semi-final.
Yeah, it's certainly out of the box. And the thing that I love when it comes to Eurovision is seeing these really ambitious entries and things that change the game. And one of the reasons why this entry had a lot of buzz around it, among other things, but one of those reasons is the fact that the staging director did Manzemerlov's stage, which was obviously something that at that time was considered a bit game changing as well, making full use of projections. This has that spirit, I would say. It has a different approach because it's not all digital. It doesn't all depend on projections and LED screens. It uses that, but it uses, as you mentioned, Jess, props. And the way there's kind of a reveal at the end for how they're doing it, because they're trying to make it look like she's in a storybook, and the props themselves look like they're made of like construction paper, or not necessarily cardboard, because that makes me think of like Dundee Dansa from Melfest this year, which I don't think the cardboard aspect of it was the best part of that.
It's kind of like an upgraded version of cardboard.
Yeah, it's like I think it's meant to look like a pop-up storybook, and like you can see that a really cool idea is there. But I do agree with you, Jess, in like with respect to the execution, because one, we only saw one run through of it, and how it works is that they do 3 run throughs. The press doesn't see the very first one, but they usually see the second and third, and they're supposed to do that in 30 minutes. And by the time we started this video, I don't know, it's possible that they were given more time, but I doubt it, because I don't know if that would be considered fair, even though they were last to rehearse today. But yeah, there's a lot happening. She has to be on certain marks at certain times. It's hugely ambitious. I hope that they're able to stand it out a little bit more. And also, I think that for the people who have seen it, the one of the doubts that was had about Leslie was, how was the vocal performance going to be? And I don't think this vocal performance in particular is going to give people a lot of confidence. But anyway, we've been talking a lot about this. So Gal and Polly, I know that you haven't really seen much of this, but just in terms of your general attitude about Maps and Leslie Roy, what are your hopes for this as far as whether or not it would qualify? Polly, let's start with you.
I think, obviously, I absolutely love Maps, and I do have really high hopes for it. And I do think, along with a lot of other people as well, that this will be Ireland's qualifier after quite a few years of not qualifying at all. This is their best chance in the last few years, and I definitely, like Jess said, she was talking about the staging that I haven't seen yet, but by the sounds of it, it's very much like the music video in that kind of respect. And I think that will have a really great effect once they iron out all of the creases. I think it will have quite a strong effect on the fans and the audience.
I hope so. Again, because there's a really great idea here. It just needs to be sanded out, as I said. Gal, how your thoughts based on how you feel about the song personally?
So yeah, well, I can only say this. I lived in Dublin 3 years ago. I was there for a year, and since coming back, I didn't really miss the place for various reasons. And I didn't really feel any strong will to go back there until I heard Maps. Like this song, like it feels like a great ad for Ireland. It feels like you hear the song and you can smell moss, and it sounds like you're strolling in fresh air and castles and stuff, and the video does it. So I'm really glad to know that they incorporate some of that in the staging. And I think it has an Irish flavor, but it's not completely. It's not a stereotypical Irish. They don't have jig dancing leprechauns or something there.
Yeah, it doesn't feel forced, and that's sometimes my issue with this insistence that we have to be traditional, we have to show something that represents the country, but sometimes what people mean is what represented the country 100 years ago. This just feels natural, right?
Yeah. This feels like Irish pop rock of today, or at least of 2018 when I heard it on the radio. But it definitely feels right, and it feels strongly local, but also has this broad global pop sensibility. So yeah, I agree with all of you. I think it could be a grand return for Ireland. I mean, it hasn't really been that long since they qualified. They qualified in 2018, but they finished in the middle of the board, kind of. So
but I guess in that case, it was an exception, because they tend to not qualify, because I think the last time before then would have been 2013.
Yeah.
And then they came last, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did. And last year in 2019, they also, I think, came last in their semifinal.
In their semifinal, right? Yeah.
A shame. I thought the song was cool, but in contrast, that song 22, it it didn't have any Irish feeling at all, which is fine. But I guess for some people that felt a little maybe forced or not authentic to the artist. because it has like strong 1950s US vibe. So like this feels like totally Ireland 2021. So I think it could really like hook people in, and yeah, I'm pretty sure it's gonna do well for Ireland. But my predictions for Eurovision are almost never correct, so I'm not gonna jinx it for her. Yeah.
I think that provided things improve, I don't know if you guys can hear that, but I'm going to close this door. Provided things improve, I think that they have great chances, because this has such a unique aesthetic, and it will work on many levels if her vocals are good. Let's get to some comments. We've got Rose saying that they love Ireland so much, and if they nail it, it will do so well. Rye Bailey is also worried about her vocals. And Rose also saying that she held back, which is fair and understandable. Yeah,
and obviously,
go ahead.
You have to understand that quite often in first rehearsals and even second, artists tend to not always put out their voice as much as they would do in the live shows to keep it as best as they can. So although the vocals were not great, it's possible that she was kind of just saving her voice for the live show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. And we this is exactly what we discussed when we were talking about Vasile. And anyway, so that's what we've seen today. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We hope that you come back, because we're going to be discussing all of the rehearsals that we see. So please subscribe to Eurovoxx if you haven't done so already. We'll do live chats after the rehearsals every day. And we've also got Andy, Clara, and Tommy on the ground in Rotterdam, and they will be doing videos, individual videos about each of the entries that we see. I know it's been a bit of a messy live, but we made it to the end
made it work
somehow. Thank you guys for joining me, and we hope to see you tomorrow. And until then, take care. Bye.